Okay, can I share the screen?
Maharaj, just give me a minute. We're going live now. So Hare Krishna, everyone. We are starting a series, Chatuh Shloki Bhagavatam series with His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj, who is joining us from ISKCON Singhpur in Madhya Pradesh. So welcome to Maharaj and welcome to everyone to the School of Vedic Studies. This will be a half-an-hour session for the next 5 days in the morning from 6 to 6:30 in the time zone that we are in, and 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. in India. So without much ado, I hand over the mic to His Holiness Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, you can share your screen now.
So this is a series of Chatuh Shloki Bhagavatam in the second canto, chapter 9, text 33 to 36, which is basically explaining the importance of understanding the concept of Srimad Bhagavatam. So of course, the Srimad Bhagavatam originally was spoken, in a sense, the Chatuh Shlokis were given to Lord Brahma when Lord Brahma was manifested on the lotus, which sprouted from the navel of Lord Vishnu. And at that point, Lord Brahma was kind of concerned that what am I doing here? Remember, he's just been woken up from his slumber also, and he's thinking about what to do next. And because Brahma is not an ordinary position, it's a position granted to a living entity who is fully qualified, pure devotee of the Lord. So then he meditates on the Lord in the heart, and the Lord gives him the 4 slokas, which later on was expanded into the 4 Vedas. And then, of course, the Vedas was then condensed by Vyasadeva into Srimad Bhagavatam, as we know today's Bhagavatam. So this section is interestingly showing us how we can understand the Supreme Lord. So in the 3rd canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, there is a purport by Srila Prabhupada and a citation of a verse saying, Sri Uddhava's actual life is direct symbol of Chatuh Shloki Bhagavatam, enunciated first to Brahmaji by the personality of Godhead. Then the purport Srila Prabhupada is saying, Sri Uddhava's actual life is the direct symbol of Chatuh Shloki Bhagavatam, enunciated first to Brahmaji by the personality of Godhead. Srimad Bhagavatam, 2nd canto, chapter 9, text 33, 34, 35, 36. These 4 very great and important verses from Srimad Bhagavatam are particularly taken out by the Mayavadi speculators who construe a different purport to suit their impersonal view of monism. Here is the proper answer to such unauthorized speculators. Now we have to understand that Srila Prabhupada was very much interested in presenting the Supreme Personality Godhead as he is, as a person, as a personality. Of course, in the world today, there is a lot of this concept of impersonalism, accepting God as supreme, but not as a form. It's some impersonal energy, some speculative understanding. Especially here in India, we have the proponents of Mayavada philosophy profusely spreading this concept that yes, there is God, but then God doesn't have a form. He is not a person. He's just some kind of energy. And in Prabhupada's prayers, we also offer him pranam. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gora Vani Kacharine Nirvasesa Sunyavadi Pakshata Desa Tarine. Nirvasesa Sunyavadi Pakshata Desa Tarine. Where Srila Prabhupada was empowered to preach to the Western world to negate them of this impersonal concept, present the personal concept of God, the Godhead which exists, and all which we are privy to by the mercy of the Parampara and of course Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that person is Sri Krishna, the Supreme Person. So he is the actual person whom we have to supposed to understand and connect with. So the verses of Srimad Bhagavatam are purely theistic signs. Now this is very important. Prabhupada is making a point here. The verses of Srimad Bhagavatam are purely theistic signs, understandable by the postgraduate students of Bhagavad Gita. Unauthorized dry speculators are offenders to the lotus feet of the Lord Sri Krishna, because they distort the purpose of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam to mislead the public and prepare a direct path to the hell known as Andha Timisara. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 16, text 20, such envious speculators are without knowledge and are surely condemned life after life. So here again, Prabhupada is very much emphasizing that there are speculators who present their purports, their commentaries on the Bhagavad Gita and then Srimad Bhagavatam to suit their own understanding, which is speculative at the best. So here, Prabhupada is saying, quoting the verse from Bhagavad Gita, that those who are envious of the Supreme Lord without knowledge will be surely condemned life after life. And of course, Prabhupada is citing that they will probably end up in some hellish planet known as Andha Timisara. They unnecessarily take shelter of Sripad Shankaracharya, but he was not a drastic as to commit an offense in the lotus feet of Sri Krishna. According to Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Sripad Shankaracharya preached the Mayavad philosophy for a particular purpose. Such a philosophy was necessary to defeat the Buddhist philosophy of non-existence of a spirit soul, but it was never meant to for perpetual acceptance. It was an emergency. Of course, we understand from Srila Prabhupada that Shankaracharya came, and Shankaracharya is not an ordinary person. He's actually an empowered person. He's empowered by the Supreme Lord to come and present a form of philosophical understanding which will bring them back on track, because we know from history, as Prabhupada explains the philosophy to us, that originally the perfect philosophy was spoken and it was presented by Vyasadeva to Parikshit Maharaj, and then we were all privy to get the actual Srimad Bhagavatam, the essence of Krishna consciousness of all the Vedic literatures as it is. But due to time, people misuse the scriptures, especially the Vedas, to gratify their senses. And what happens is they use selectively parts of the Vedas which allows you to do animal sacrifice. And of course, after animal sacrifice, poor animals are sacrificed without any due care and understanding. And then they eat the flesh for themselves. So this is for enjoying the flesh of an animal. As Prabhupada says, it's another form of sense gratification. So Shankaracharya came to bring back people on track. And prior to that, of course, Lord Buddha, who is also considered as one of the Dasa avatars, empowered personality, he came to perform a particular mission. As you know from the Bhagavad Gita, that the Supreme Lord or his empowered personalities come timely when there is the degradation of dharma. So here, Lord Buddha came to bring people away from this misconception of Vedas being misused, animal sacrifice. So he did his business to bring people out of that mindset. And later on, of course, Shankaracharya comes and he sets up the understanding of God, but in an impersonal way, because already due to Buddhism, people were considering that there is no God, there is nothing existing in this world. Now, to bring them back on track, Shankaracharya is bringing them that yes, there is God, but it's impersonal, it's some energy. So again, when this happens, people are brought back on track. And after being brought back on track, the Supreme Lord himself, in the beautiful manifestation as Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu comes, establishes the Supreme Lord as a person. And then we are now privy to understand the very confidential knowledge of the Supreme Lord and his creation. It is also mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita by the Supreme Lord himself to Arjuna. First, he's leading him to his doubts, and then Lord Shri Krishna is bringing him to an understanding of confidential knowledge about the Lord and his creation. Then he goes further in depth, and he brings the most confidential knowledge. So we are so fortunate that by mercy of Srila Prabhupada, he has given us this true understanding as it is to bring us on the righteous path and on the way back home, back to Godhead. So thus, Lord Sri Krishna was accepted by Shankaracharya as the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his commentations on Bhagavad Gita. Since he was a great devotee of Lord Krishna, he did not dare write any commentary on Srimad Bhagavatam because that would have been direct offense to the lotus feet of the Lord. But later speculators, in the name of Mayavad philosophy, unnecessarily make their commentary on the Chatuh Shloki Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam, second canto, chapter 9, text 33, 34, 35, 36. So remember, these are the most important 4 slokas. And in the presentation, it will be a lot of repetition of reminding us this, without any bona fide intent. So most of these speculators, they use these verses to present the Supreme Lord as impersonal, without proper understanding. It should be particularly noted herein that Uddhava studied the Chatuh Shloki Bhagavatam directly from the Lord, who spoke them first to Brahmaji. And this time, the Lord explains more confidentially the self-knowledge mentioned in the Param Satyam. This is from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 4, text 20. Prabhupada is explaining. Monastic dry speculators have no business in the Srimad Bhagavatam, because this particular Vedic literature is forbidden for them by the great author himself. Srila Vyasadeva has definitely forbidden persons engaged in religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and finally salvation from trying to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, which is not meant for them. Again, Prabhupada is very clearly specifying here that Srimad Bhagavatam is not an ordinary literature, as I mentioned earlier on, that it is for those who are postgraduates of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. The Bhagavad Gita lays the foundation of basic knowledge of the Lord and his devotee, and frees us from any misconceptions of our relationship with the Supreme Lord and who we really are. Because better part of the Bhagavad Gita, in the 2nd chapter, the Lord spends a lot of time in explaining the concept of the spirit soul. And Prabhupada also says, we are not this body, we are spirit soul. Of course, just knowing that is not enough. We have to understand what is the spirit soul and what is its existence and how the spirit soul is connected with the Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. And in all this relationship is building up as a foundation to understand confidential knowledge which Krishna gives us. Now, when we have graduated from the basic foundation of knowledge, then we go for post-graduation, and that post-graduation is the study of Srimad Bhagavatam. So again here, Prabhupada is saying it is forbidden by the author himself. And what is Vyasadeva saying? That this Bhagavatam is not meant for some religiosity, some economic development, sense gratification, and of course, salvation. What we call is dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. This is very popular in India, that there is dharma, there is artha, there is kama, there is moksha. Dharma, of course, is religious principles. Artha is economic development for your day-to-day livelihood. And then dharma and kama is kind of enjoying spirit of sense gratification. And ultimately thinking that if I follow all this, then moksha, liberation will be there. But it's misconception. Because here very clearly is saying that it is definitely forbidden for persons engaged in religiosity, economic development, sense gratification, and finally salvation from trying to understand the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is not meant for them. So then Prabhupada is further giving a citation from the Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto of chapter 1, text 2. So the translation of this verse is very clearly saying, completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. This Bhagavad Purana propounds the highest truth, which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. Now, this is very underlining importance, that it is the highest truth which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in the heart. The highest truth is reality, reality distinguished from the illusion of the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is needed? What is the need of any other scriptures? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. So, of course, before the Supreme Lord is established in the heart, you need to prepare the heart to receive the Lord. And what is the preparation? The preparation is that one must be pure-hearted. Now, how do we make our heart pure? This is also by the mercy of the Supreme Lord explained to us. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has specifically come to give us the opportunity in this Kali Yuga to become pure-hearted. And what is the process of pure-hearted? Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Eva Kevalam. Kalo nasteva, 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 gatiranetha. So in this day and age of Kali Yuga, there is no other way, no other way, no other way except Hare Nam, Hare Nam, Hare Nam. And what is this Hare Nam? Which is given to us by the mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and then his successors in the Paramparic line up to present day is the Hare Krishna mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So if we very meticulously and with great care and by observing the 10 offenses against the holy name and chant the Hare Krishna mantra regularly every day, then the heart becomes pure. And when the heart is free from all contamination, then this pure heart is now a place to receive and establish the Lord in the heart. And that is the process of Krishna consciousness. Although the Lord, out of his kindness, still is there accompanying the soul as Paramatma. But we all know that Srila Prabhupada has given us this deep understanding that Paramatma feature of the Lord in the heart is only there as the witness to all your activities, which is when we cite that example from the Vedas, the two birds sitting on the tree and one bird is enjoying the fruits of the tree. The other bird is simply observing the other the bird who is eating the fruits of the tree. In other words, the living entity is performing many, many activities. The Lord in the heart is observing his activities and then noting them. And according to the activities we perform, good or bad, we will then get our due deserves in terms of rewards, either good activity, good results or bad results. But most important is this beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. So, of course, Bhagavatam gives us a perfect platform to realize Supreme Personality of Godhead, which Prabhupada calls in his transcendental language, he is coined in the Western world, science of self-realization. The science of self-realization is to connect with the Supreme, establish the Supreme Lord in the heart. So the purport to this verse, Prabhupada further explains, religion includes 4 primary subjects, namely pious activities, economic development, satisfaction of the senses, and finally liberation from the material bondage. Irreligious life is barbarous condition. Indeed, human life begins when religion begins. Eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating are the 4 principles of animal life. These are common both to animals and human beings. But religion is an extra function of the human being. Without religion, human life is no better than animal life. Therefore, in human society, there is some form of religion which aims at self-realization and which makes references to man's eternal relationship with God. Now, here Prabhupada is very clearly establishing the difference between human form of life and non-human form of life. Human form of life has got that extra function, which is to be religion, to understand religion. And what is religion? Prabhupada says is the process of self-realization. Of course, it is not some kind of rituals which we perform for our satisfaction of understanding, yes, I'm doing good deeds and I'm following some kind of religious principles, which is prominently happening now in the world. And Prabhupada also underlines the fact here in the purport, saying, because of without religion, human life is no better than animal life.
Maharaj,
Therefore, in human society, is that better?
We can't see you. Yes, better now. Maharaj. Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
So, Srila Prabhupada is explaining here that in the world, different parts of the world, because eternally we are parts and parts of the Supreme Lord, so we have some connection and understanding of the Supreme Lord, although we are forgetful of our relationship with the Supreme Lord, but the Supreme Lord, out of his kindness, is accompanying us in the heart as Paramatma, is giving us some indication of what human life is all about. And therefore, in human society, there are some forms of religion which exist around the world. But the highest truth is given by Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the actual depth of knowledge which brings us to self-realization. So in the lower stages of human civilization, there is always competition to lord it over material nature, or in other words, there is a continuous rivalry to satisfy the senses. Driven by such consciousness, man turns to religion. He thus performs pious activities or religious functions in order to gain something material. But if such material gains are obtainable in other ways, then so-called religion is neglected. This is the situation of modern civilization. Man is thriving economically. So at present, he is not very interested in religion. So this we experience in our preaching work in Krishna consciousness, that we try to be compassionate to the fallen living conditions who are suffering in this material world, bring them to light of knowledge of Krishna consciousness, but they are not interested. They're interested in material sense gratification, economic development, and so-called modern technological driven world, which thinks, which is brainwashing people into thinking that this modern technology is going to bring us happiness. But since the beginning of so-called modern civilization, the industrialization of the world, where industries are profusely producing all kinds of materials and facilities for sense gratification and making things presentable to the masses, that these will resolve all your problems. But to date, we see that there is such advancement in science, technology, and facilities for material sense gratification from every different angle you can wish for. But still, we see there is misery, unhappiness. People are still hankering for happiness. And that is because they're looking for happiness in the wrong place, in the wrong things. So in the Vedas, the above mentioned 4 activities are prescribed in the regulative way so that there will be there will not be any undue competition for sense gratification. So again, here is very clear that these so-called artha, kama, moksha, these basic principles are there to raise you, because in the beginning, you have to learn the steps ABC of Krishna consciousness. And when you're learning the ABC of Krishna consciousness, then gradually you have to come out of this conditioned life and then become unconditioned. So these regular principles of understanding some religious principles, and because of dharma, the religious principles will then guide you to righteous activities, and in other words, pious activities, and free you from impious activities or sinful activities. And then this will slowly allow you to have your economic development for your basic necessities and lead you to the highest platform. So here is saying, but Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental to all these sense gratificatory activities. it is purely transcendental literature, which can be understood only by pure devotees of the Lord who are transcendental to competitive sense gratification. This is very, very, very important point Srila Prabhupada is making here. That in order to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, it is not ordinary, it is a transcendental literature. And this transcendental literature will free us from all kinds of sense gratificatory activities. And as Prabhupada mentions here, that it can be only understood by pure devotees of the Lord who are transcendental to competitive sense gratification. So even as devotees, and generally I say not devotees, but I like to use the word practicing devotees, in our practicing devotional life, as devotees who are practicing the process of bhakti, we are gradually being freed from this competitive sense gratification, because it is also very easy for a practicing devotee to misunderstand and misconstrue the scriptural injunctions and use everything in the name of Krishna to enjoy sense gratification. So of course, Rupa Goswami says use that is favorable to advance in Krishna consciousness, and that which is unfavorable, reject it. But what we do as practicing devotees, we manipulate things in such a way to justify and make ourselves feel comfortable that yes, whatever I'm doing is according to the directives, and we try to incorporate our sense gratification in this way in the name of Krishna or Krishna consciousness. And then we become so engrossed in this that we find after years of practicing Krishna consciousness, we do not feel the transcendental bliss which is mentioned in the scriptures. This material world, there is keen competition between animal and animal, man and man, community and community, nation and nation. But the devotees of the Lord rise above such competitions. They do not compete with the materialists because they are on the path back to Godhead, where life is eternal and blissful. Such transcendentalists are non-envious and pure in heart. So this is very, very important statement Srila Prabhupada is making. The material world, there is keen competition between animal and animal, which we observe everywhere. Man and man, we observe that. Community and communities, we observe that. Nations and nations, we observe that. But Prabhupada is saying, the devotees of the Lord rise above such competitions. And therefore, even Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in his vision, he said that he has this vision that in the future, there will be a development of Siddha Mayapur, where a community will arise and it will radiate the transcendental message of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the whole world. And the people from all over the world will come together, forgetting their animal propensities, man propensities, community propensities, nation propensities, and all this identification will be forgotten. They will come together in spirit of togetherness to understand the highest purpose, and together in the spirit of that pure understanding of that you are living entity, you are only there for pleasing the Supreme Lord. You get together and you will chant the holy names. And we see this presently by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. Thousands and thousands of devotees come to Siddha Mayapur from all nations, all backgrounds, and they forget their bodily concept, I hope, and they are chanting Hare Krishna together joyously. This is the process of Krishna consciousness, which is meant to be experienced by all of us who are the students of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Sripad Siddhar Swami, the great commentator on Srimad Bhagavatam, has definitely forbidden the Salvanacist and monist to deal with Srimad Bhagavatam. Of course, we are also privy to the mercy of Siddhar Swami, who was the commentator of Srimad Bhagavatam. And when he wrote his commentary, that commentary was approved by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he gave his seal of approval that this is the perfect commentary which is presented by Siddhar Swami on the Srimad Bhagavatam for salvation of mankind. It is not for them. Yet such unauthorized persons perseverely try to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, and thus they commit offense at the feet of the Lord, which even Sripad Shankaracharya dared not to. So again, here Prabhupada is emphasizing that we have the perfection of understanding Srimad Bhagavatam in the commentations given by Siddhartha Swami. And later on, of course, with present-day context, as Prabhupada always says, time, place, and circumstances, he has elaborately given us the depth and insight into the Srimad Bhagavatam, the transcendental purpose by his divine grace, A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Prabhupada. So we have all these facilities at our disposals. We have to take this very seriously. And once we understand this presentation of the Chatuh Shloki Bhagavatam and insight as we continue for the next 4 days, then we will come to a right conclusion, and hopefully we will come to the perfection of understanding Srimad Bhagavatam. So it is almost 8 o'clock. I will stop here and we'll continue from this part of my presentation in our continuation tomorrow at 7 o'clock. So if anybody has any questions, comments, we can take it for our understanding. Otherwise, we'll continue with our session tomorrow. And as the time is very important, I'm sure all of you in your part of the world are getting ready to go to work. Here, I have no problems. I can continue whole day because I am in my own leisure world. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Maharaj, if we can have the presentation so that we can have you on screen. You can close the presentation.
Yeah, 1 second. Let me see. Oh, how do I forgot how to undo the screen.
Oh.
Oops. Okay.
Yeah.
Figure out. Hare Krishna.
Oh, sorry. Where is Maharaj now? We'll get to it.
Somewhere there.
Yes, Maharaj. So Hare Krishna, Maharaj. Thank you very much for this wonderful first session. Really, it was nice that it's a run-up to the 4 verses, which will, be discussed in the next 4 days. But this reference from the 3rd canto, 4th chapter, 20th verse was very apt. So if there is any quick question, one at best, then we'll take that, and also request everyone to have while Maharaj is speaking, you can have your doubts or questions or comments ready so that we can have a few minutes after the session. So any comment or a question? Otherwise, we will end the session. Okay. So thank you very much to everyone to attend this first session of the Chatuh Shloki Bhagavatam. We look forward to having you for the next 4 sessions, and also to inform everyone that we read the Srimad Bhagavatam every day at the same time, 7:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. India time. So you can also continue to join us for that. But this session will be on till Thursday, the 18th. And if there is more to cover, we will request Maharaj to continue. But the idea is to get into the subject matter.
Of course, this subject matter is a very in-depth study.
Yeah.
It cannot be done in 2.5 hours presentation,
Yes.
half hour every day. But I've tried to concise it, and I'm not going into the actual purpose of the 4 verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam, because they're very lengthy. If you read all the verses, by the time I finish reading the purport, we have no time to speak about it. So I have made the preparation in such a way, the presentation, well, it will allow us to get some in-depth. And then, of course, you can read the Srimad Bhagavatam at your leisure and derive the nectar from Srila Prabhupada's purports. So until tomorrow, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Sure, Maharaj. And we can also extend if the need be. That is not an issue. If there is a need for that So we'll do that, Maharaj. So Srimad Bhagavatam Granth Raj ki jai. HH Atmanivedana Swami Maharaj ki jai. Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Pancha Kalpatarubhasya Kripasindhubhya Padmebhyo Hare Krishna. Friends, switch on your videos if you wish.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.